more sense.
What percent increase is that?
Yeah.
From 1 million to 343 million. What percentage increase is that? Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me. As
Were you governor in 2024?
I was, but I'm not the...
Okay, so your excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable. $343 million was spent in 2024.
So it went up by that's 3,430%.
Jeez.
That's a long damn, bro. Like now, you know what? Now.
What's that? Oh yeah, imagine having when you have an earbud and there's always someone talking in your ear as though your great-great-grandfather is always right by your side. And he's talking to you all the time. He interjects with what you're hearing, seeing. Yeah. You have conversations with him sometimes. Good therapy. And you can make it anyone. Your great-grandfather. Someone up the road. Right. Hold on a second. Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of reading. Well, the level of abuse and fraud we have seen is pretty horrible, and how they use people with disabilities, and the whole autism thing has gotten way, way out of hand, and just the lack of communication and people discussing those things is really bad. Seems like a lot of filibustering and no basic conceptual speaking on the matters, and it's really sad to us. Yeah, no, us personally, the level of abuse and fraud has been really bad. But anyway, on a side note, it's interesting. I was just in my room, and then I was walking out of my room. I put my hand in my pocket. I had thrown my robe on. I thought it was a little chilly. And I stuck my hand in my pocket. Well, I found this bouncy ball. And what I thought was strange about finding the bouncy ball at that time was right before I had reached in and picked up the bouncy ball out of the pocket, I had been thinking, just book it, right? Yeah, why bother? Why stay in the eye of the storm and have to witness, right? I mean, if you don't have to watch them suffer. Right, I mean, you look away if you can, right? I know, it's hard to enjoy your meal or sleep with those screams and cries. I know, as long as it's not yours, right? Or you. This is the butterfly. Someone asked what kind of tea we had been drinking. Yeah, it's really good. This is the vanilla midnight one. We put a little bit of oat milk in it. The butterfly pea flower, vanilla midnight, it's really good. Well, the funny part about it was because I can remember back when Jamie was little, it's like kindergarten, maybe kindergarten, first grade, so this would have been 2008, 9-ish, yeah, that fun era. Right, well, we were having a meeting, and they were saying that because of his autism and stuff, he had speech therapy and all that, behavioral specialists that worked with him. And they had made a statement that he liked running for the doors, and they were concerned, his safety and things like that. Right, and I remember just saying, because my parents were kind of set on keeping him in the public school, wanting him to be like a real kid, right? It's just strange. It's like you got to accept, though, that, never mind. Right, they do have schools. He ended up going to Beckett, which is a really good school for children with autism and special needs at that level, to that extent. Yeah, it's pretty bad what's been getting diagnosed as far as, well, some people were saying, I remember they made a joke, why don't we just have basic income and give everybody disability, because it's almost like people are trying to make their kids autistic. Yeah, unfucking believable. No, it takes your breath away, actually, if you understand the level and what people deal with day after day after day with a lot of these cases and psychotic people abusing their children. Yeah, and then the fucking sick fucks and the pedophilia and the child and animal pornography, from the jokes to the hazing to the fake stuff to the real stuff. Yeah, you can't even begin to put it into words, really. Right, yeah, he was at Beckett for a little while, and then for some reason, I'm not sure what happened. I've asked my dad a few times, he just said something to do with issues with the transportation or something. I don't know. Yeah, it makes me really sad, actually, but what can you do? Yeah, so they took him on, he put him back in public school and stuff like that. I was very concerned for his safety, because, you know, but I think there was enough aware people that saw they weren't aware, as usual. Yeah, we've been on these programs since we were kids for a reason, and I try to explain that to them. They don't seem to get it. I know, it's very weird. It's like there's no blame or trying to prove anything. We're just saying that is what is, for multiple reasons. I know, it's very strange. And then when you remind them of those reasons, well, the blame game comes in, and well, you did more and this or that, and like blaming people and others. Does it even matter? Like when you see them doing that as opposed to just acknowledging what is and trying to like shine a light on something dirtier or stinkier, it's like, okay, it makes no fucking sense. It's sad and it's scary to us, especially when you understand the level of abuse. But yeah, anyways, I can remember saying to them in that meeting back, he was at Lincoln, and I said, you know, he really likes bouncy balls, and if you keep a bouncy ball in your pocket when he goes to run for the door, because I remember when he was younger, I hated the idea of putting him on a leash. I had used one time at the Windsor Fair, which was a reasonable place to use it. There was a lot of people there, and the horse races and everything like that. Yeah, he actually liked it. It was a stuffy monkey. But anyways, yeah, so I didn't like doing that, you know, all the time. And so if he'd go to run off, I'd say, Jamie, bouncy balls, and he'd run. He'd always run for the bouncy ball and try to grab one from my hand and then see who could bounce it first. Yeah, he liked doing that. So anyways, I had just suggested that they keep a bouncy ball in their pocket if he tries to run for the door, if they were concerned about his safety. They were just so dead set on like pushing him into the other school maybe, or whatever. I'm not really sure what their ulterior motives was there. It seems like a lot of people around here. Yeah, we were dealing with the Maine Parent Federation at the time, and psychos saying we were going to kill other people for not vaccinating. Didn't want us or our children near them. So I think there was, yeah, a little more to it than that, but among other things, as they say. Well, I just thought it was interesting because I was thinking I'm just going to book it. Fuck it. Go off to Never Never Land. Yeah, and just not think about it. Why watch the horrific suffering and ignorance and continue to put ourselves in harm's way and make ourselves sick being around such ignorance and astute pieces of shit that don't want to acknowledge what's happening with our children and try to cast us out to be dangerous and crazy is fucking sick and disturbing, and it's been sick and disturbing to us since decades, since we were kids, really. I remember being 10 years old. And we were like, yeah, no, those people, what happened to, hey, where'd they go? Where'd they go? And then this guy's going to jail. What? Oh my God, this is fucked up. You don't remember right. Yeah, no, I remember just fine. Wow. And then a force pushes me down the stairs. I fractured my shoulder pretty bad. It's in the records. You know that. Yeah, you know that too. Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? A ghost pushed me down the stairs because I was bad. I know. They love their ghost stories. It's pretty sad. Yes, when you understand that, and over the years, and fast forward, because that was what, like 90, 91, fast forward, 2017, I'm trying to get my daughter to a doctor. I mean, all the in-between stuff, too, is pretty bad. We're lucky we survived a lot of that. Yeah, and they want to call the ghost hunters. So yeah, by 2017, when you look at, and then 2016, and the activist groups and all that bullshit, yeah, really, really bad. Ricola, original, one of the original Ricolas, it's yummy. It actually was really good with the tea. Well, yeah, I remember when I had mentioned that in a meeting and they got pissed off and rolled their eyes and it was an issue for some reason. I mean, talk about narcissistic. You can't even. It's just sad. It's stupid. It's ignorant, and I don't think there's any place for it, really. In society, let alone in the school systems, for Christ's sake. I know, huh? Were we on 131 or 130? He sees something that he can never forget, but that others did not see, and he will never know again rest. And he will never again know rest. He has emerged from surroundings into which he can never fit again. That does not mean that he is a better Christian than others, or even a better man, morally speaking. The reverse may well be true. The shock of the earthquake may have unfitted him altogether for ordinary, regular work, filling his soul with unrest. A man who knows nothing of all this may do his duty more conscientiously. Perhaps he says his prayers more regularly and performs more good works. It is a bit of a repeat. His judgment may be balanced and calmer, and his work marked by greater prudence, more self-control. He will be able to examine his conscience and consider his actions and learn to improve himself. But if there is one thing which is forbidden, the man born of God, it is precisely that to measure himself against his achievement. Nothing he finds is so unbearable as the sight of what he has achieved. He is consumed in a sort of despair by the thought of all that has not been done. He can only see the distance that separates him from God, the total lack of correspondence. His whole existence is concentrated in a single passion, imparted by that unbearable dissonance. Others may genuinely regard themselves as useless servants, while resting in faith and love. They will try earnestly to improve themselves out of love for God. But the man of whom we are speaking looks upon his work as straw, only fit for the fire. His faith takes the form of impossibility, his love the form of unattainability. But the fire of the impossible is his very life,
and it makes him creative. This does not mean to say that everything will work out well, and that all the consequences of his experiences are willed by God. The gulf between feeling and doing is perhaps all too great. Men who have been buried alive, or barely escaped from a burning house, bear the wound permanently in their soul. For the rest of their lives they bear the stigma of the catastrophe. For ever after they are left trembling, and they may often be a hindrance for much that is good. The man born of God is like a man distraught. What he bears about God never corresponds to what he knows of God. All his thoughts about God are inadequate compared with what God revealed to him, and he is driven to despair. He can no longer bear to look at himself. He lives on the fact that God is ever greater, and he awakens from the shock that struck him, and begins to take his bearings. Though he will never again be certain of them, he can only see things from God's point of view. Having experienced God as ever greater, the world inevitably seems ever smaller. To all appearances, he is wearing blinkers where the values of the world are concerned. His outlook seems narrowed. The way to God has been widened by God himself till it includes absolutely everything. Where he is concerned, the equilibrium between God and the world is destroyed forever. He has not forgotten his former state. Moreover, he sees it incorporated in the men about him. Yeah, so in those kind of classes that aren't too into religious terms, they would say things like sever the cord, energetic lines. Right, I can understand these things. It's all the same thing, it's just different terminology. I mean, we can use, space terms if you want, or science. But yeah, using things like severing cords and energetic kind of stuff, relationships, emotions, right? A lot of people don't like to talk about that stuff, so I am a robot. Right, so you have a computer. Now, a computer has a hard drive. Now, bandwidth. Scarecrow. You're funny. He has not forgotten his former state. Moreover, he sees it incorporated in the men about him. The first life, too, may have been beautiful, and its beauty is not forgotten, but it is a beauty that lies far below him now, because it is incompatible with the surpassing beauty of the new life. The newborn man lives between heaven and earth and cannot settle down in either, not on earth, because he has been transplanted into heaven, not in heaven, because he has to live as one expelled from the inconceivable God. And the fact that he is no longer of the world reveals the power of the new birth to him. He, who had been worldly, so rooted in the world, was uprooted forever by that power. His previous state forms a sort of background that throws his present state into relief, and reveals the whole change and all that no longer matters. The shock of being born of God has nothing to do with the religious agitation produced by the contemplation of nature. One may be moved to tears and stirred to one's depths at the sight of created beauty, and the feeling may be accompanied by a devout lifting of the spirit to God, but the shock of natural beauty never merges into the shock of being reborn. Nature affords no parallel, and still less any starting point. From a worldly point of view, the man born of God is a plant that has had its stem bent double. Now, is that the same as twofold? Right. From a worldly point of view, the man born of God is a plant that has had its stem bent double. Before the injury, it flourished, has a wonderful system of use in which the sap rose and fell. Its healthy closed system was a harmonious life, capable of unfolding in suitable surroundings. And suddenly, its stem is bent double by a strange hand. Only that death is no way out. It has got to adapt itself as best it can and go on living. He is like a man who has had an operation which entirely changes his metabolism. He has got to go on living as best he can under new conditions, just as if nothing had happened. And in fact, from then on, his whole life assumes a new character. He lives as if. As long as man has that is hilarious. As if is in quotation marks. Put that sentence on the board for class, yeah? And in fact, from then on, his whole life assumes a new character, comma, he lives as if. That's a great sentence. Page 132 in the Word, written in 1953. Something. Adrian von Sphere, right? Adrian von Sphere. As long as man has not experienced the explosion of being reborn, it is easy for him to live as a member of the community. Afterwards it becomes difficult. It may be that the new life leads to absolute solitude in God. Although love for others persists and perhaps even grows stronger, the approach to men is made difficult. Language is no longer quite the same. It may even be that a man thus touched by God has not got the human strength needed to bear the shock, and his spirit may be darkened. The experience of God's surpassing greatness is beyond his powers, and he breaks under the strain. Or it may be that one who has seen what God is demands too much of others and becomes an unbearable member of the community. He is no longer available for harmless. He is no longer available for harmless, light and easy conversation. He may be incapable of constructive work within the established order. He is withdrawn from men and no longer understood by them. He is so overwhelmed and shattered by God that he is not much good for ordinary undertakings. But his isolation is not a form of pride, nor does it resemble the isolation which springs from dread of life or some other pathological cause, even when that isolation is draped in a religious mantle, and it very often is. The man born of God is isolated by God himself. It may well be that the community grasps something of what is happening and can select something fruitful from the rim of the explosion, but the community never penetrates to the center of the vortex, which is a secret between the individual and God, and yet that secret is a secret of love, and so fruitfulness. The shards that remain after an earthquake are fragments of love, and so of unity. They are witness to the act of fecundation, crossword, fecundation, fecundation. They are witness to the act of fecundation, whose explosive effect scatters a superfluidity of power. Seen from inside, such men are a source of oh my goodness, you want to have a view of the other side? Alright, let's do that. It is 2:41 here in the afternoon. There you go.
Here I go, here I go, here I go again. Hey, who's my witness? All right, let's see, where were we? Seen from inside, such men are a source of life. Seen from outside, they are a sign from God. They are a sign that one cannot keep in step with God, a sign that breaks through the stream of the church's tradition. The man born of God is flung out of the usual channels and consequently out of the church's tradition. And it is part of the church's tradition that from time to time men will be thus thrown out. The kingdom of God does not, after all, grow out of the ground like a plant. It is not only organic, it is always apocalyptic. Every catastrophe in which God appears is the center of fruitfulness. Every explosion that originates in God increases the power of the church. Inroads like that nourish it for generations. It is not that man blown sky high who is nourished. How should he be? But the place he occupied where he vanished into God opens the way for a sight of God. God reveals himself through the opening. We're almost done with this chapter, like a few more sentences and we'll finish up there. But the place he occupied where he vanished into God opens the way for a sight of God. Yeah, it's just, we'll finish on this chapter. It's literally just a few more sentences. You're welcome. God reveals himself through the opening created, and generations of men live on that revelation. The place where it happens may become a place of pilgrimage, though it is not the place that matters, but what happened, and those who go to the shrine should be moved, not by the place, but by God, who on that very spot once set everything aside and appeared to man. At first, the church regards a catastrophe of this order as a misfortune, until she has learned through the blessings it brings that God has revealed himself, until she gradually comes to see that her forms only retain their vitality and life if her tradition and framework are from time to time burst open. And then next is chapter 12, the Word made flesh, and the Word has made flesh and dwelt among us. Yeah, we'll read that one later. I believe that's the final chapter, yeah? You're welcome. Thank you.